You're listening to Radio Mayapur with the best devotional, meditation, kirtan music, and inspirational podcast. This is Radio Mayapur.
Hare Krishna. This is Radio Mayapur. This is Ganga, your host, and today we're very, very fortunate. We have with us Mahamaya Dasi, and she was born in September 29 in 1946 in New York. She studied University in Massachusetts, and in 1968 in Berkeley, California, she saw first time the devotee. So let's hear today her story, because we are very much interested in understanding how people in their life come. At one point, there is a crossroad, and people choose to change direction because of something happened. So Maya, welcome to our podcast, Radio Mayapur. Please tell us a little bit about yourself before you met the devotees.
Okay.
I know your father was a publisher,
Yes.
and she published the first Guinness World Record.
It was the first the American edition. Yeah, the first American
okay.
edition of the Guinness Book of World Records. Well, thank you for allowing me to talk.
It's a pleasure.
So just to explain about my father, he started his own publishing company in 1949 when I was pretty young. And he specialized in how-to books.
Wow.
And he found this book printed in England. It was called Superlatives. And he says it was my older brother who showed some interest in this book. I also saw it, like this book, I saw it in my father's office at home. And in any case, he got in touch with the authors and made an arrangement with them to publish it in America under the title of the Guinness Book of World Records. There was a connection with Guinness Stout.
Nice.
Because they like to solve arguments in bars. That was the idea.
Sorry.
So
nice, interesting.
Yeah, and then he made it a yearly book, so people would compete to break the records, and so it was a really good addition to my father's company. It maybe all the offshoot books maybe was a total of a quarter of his books. So,
but you were alone in the family, or your brother, sister?
Oh, okay. Well, my father was married before my mother. He was married and unfortunately, his first wife died right after giving birth to their second daughter. Within an hour or something. And 2.5 years later, my father married my mother. He expected her to raise his two daughters, which she did. She was kind of the wicked stepmother. At a certain point, when I was so my older brother was born, and then when I was an infant, she sent the girls, my sisters, to my grandparents to be raised. So that I had the two sisters, but I really never even knew the oldest one. But the other one came back to live with us when she was 15. And so I was 7, she was 15. I looked up to her like she was the end all and be all,
Nice.
And unfortunately, both of my sisters have left their bodies now. But then I also have a younger brother.
Okay.
So, yeah, there was 5 kids, but we kind of all grew up somewhat separately. Yeah.
Okay. Then you went to university. You studied, what type of subject you studied in university?
Well, first I majored in psychology because I wanted to understand myself. I realized there was no concrete answers. My favorite subject in college was calculus, which is maybe a little unusual for a girl, right?
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the logic of it. That's all I remember. I did change my major to elementary education, and that was because I was emulating my sister, who was an elementary education teacher. But final major was English literature. Basically, I just like to read.
Nice.
And
I guess you are a seeker of the truth. You were trying to find out something, or no?
no, I was just going to say that I had no goal. I had no real interest in anything in particular. I went to college because it was expected of me.
Okay.
It was just no question. That's what I had to do.
Everybody had to do it.
Well, to some extent, everybody, but I would say it's my parents, a little background on them there. I would call them New York Jewish intellectuals.
Okay.
I mean, both of them were authors. Like when my father, they kind of had a unique way of coming up with books to print. They would think, I think there could be a useful book on such and such a topic. And then they try to find an author. Right. It's like, instead of like usually the book is written and then somebody approaches the company, they were doing it the opposite way. Like, let's make a book about wood carving or flower arranging or, you know,
interesting.
That's what they did.
Interesting way of thinking.
Yeah, that's how they handled it. So they totally, you know, expected me to get an education. And I just wanted to have fun, actually.
Good.
That's why I went to UMass. Wow. It was considered an easy school for New York students. And yeah, I did drop out after a year and a half. And I went to Boston.
Which year it was? 1960?
That was 1965.
So that was the hippie movement. Hippie movement, the Beatles,
yeah.
and all the music and freedom and free of everything.
Yeah. Yep. And the summer of 67 was the big thing in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury, part of San Francisco. But this, when I dropped out, this was just before that. So the hippie movement was just getting started. I remember my roommate in college was into SDS, which stood for Students for a Democratic Society. And they're basically rebels.
Oh, yeah, of course. Everybody was a rebel at the time.
Right, a hippie means a rebel.
I mean, a rebel.
We just rejected the concept that you have to get an education, get a job, get married, have kids, work your whole life, and then you die. Like, what is the point?
Doesn't have a meaning in this
life. No meaning.
No.
Yeah. So we were searching, in a sense, but I really can't say that I was searching. But
at least you knew that this life without knowing something deeper means it's meaningless.
Yeah. And it did disturb my family that I was a hippie, became a hippie. When I didn't immediately become a hippie. Okay. I dropped out and moved to Boston and got a job. I mean, I was an upright citizen for a while. And
what type of job?
I worked as a typist for a book wholesaler.
Oh.
I might be that somebody in my father's office gave me their name and, you know, because of the connection with books.
Yeah.
But it was a very low-level job. Then I got a better job at Harvard University Press as a secretary. And then I tend to move around a lot in my whole life. But from there, I went and got a job at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Nice.
The department was NASA, actually.
Wow.
They were making software for NASA. And I was, again, just a secretary.
That's interesting.
It was way over my head, but I did have to get top secret security clearance with the government.
You had to?
I had to for that job.
Whoa.
So I think that means there's a file on me at the FBI. I hope they're not keeping it up to date. I don't know. But anyway, then again, I changed jobs. Well, it may be Harvard University. Oh, yeah, at MIT. Okay, I changed jobs again at MIT because I wanted to go back to school, which I did for a semester. UMass opened up a branch in Boston, and I needed to get a job that was like 3 days a week, and I don't have classes 3 days a week. So I was doing full-time studying.
Training at the same time.
Yeah, no, I was still, again, a secretary. I moved to just a different department at MIT. It was the city planning department.
Interesting.
And it was just, again, I'm just a typist, fast typist, and could get jobs like that. Then, let's see, from Boston, well, while in Boston, I met a man named Stan, and we ended up getting married, which was an elopement, I would say, because my parents didn't know until I told them. They were not happy about it, but I was rebelling against them, against the world, against them.
Against everybody.
Everything.
Everything and everybody.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into too many details, but Stan and I lived in Boston for a while. Let's see, I guess I got married in 1966. We moved to California in 1968 because we heard about the Summer of Love, they called it,
Yeah.
in 1967. By the time we got there, it was over. It was over. I hate
The law
asking.
was gone.
Yeah, the law was gone. All right. It was just a few drugged out people in that area. It was
Not what you expected.
not at all. Anyway, we were still straight in that we got jobs in San Francisco, and at some point I got, this might sound a little speculative, but I got a really bad case of poison ivy somehow, like I can't remember, some park or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me some heavy shots of cortisone to help. And it made me really be uncomfortable in a city setting. I just wanted to get out of the city. So we ended up moving north of San Francisco to a little town that's kind of well known called Mendocino. It's actually like an artist's haven, and a lot of the stores are art galleries, and it's right on the coast. There's like these high cliffs, beautiful setting. The Pacific Ocean is there, and we lived there, and again, we got jobs to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But we also connected up with one of the stores in town that was, I guess you'd call it a head shop.
Head shop.
Head shop. So that was
What means?
meant,
Sorry,
well, I was just playing. It means like a shop that's catering to what hippies would want.
Oh, okay. All this trinket and stuff.
Yeah.
And pipe and.
I can't remember if it actually had pipes and papers and things like that, but it was just geared towards the hippies, as opposed to the art galleries, which was geared to wealthy people looking for real art. But they had art, and that's why we connected with it, because Stan was a musician. He was a singer, actually, a really good singer.
Was he part of any groups, famous group? No.
No, he went to the Boston Conservatory of Music.
Oh, okay.
He was a tenor.
Wow.
He was a really good singer, but I don't know beyond that what happened with his career, because we didn't stay together. But in any case, he was also an artist, and he was making like art that he would sell at that hippie store.
Okay, but tell us now how and when and where you...
That's right. Okay, I just want to tell it quickly that in Mendocino is where we met a bunch of hippies. Like, they were like hippies. I mean, we ended up quitting our jobs. We became full-on hippies. When we were in San Francisco, I know it was 1968. Don't know what month.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's before or after we went to Mendocino, but in any case, I just remember walking down the street in Berkeley, California, and seeing a bunch of men, like maybe 4 men, wearing saffron cloth, and they had sikas. I thought they were Buddhists, because at that time, there was such a heavy rejection of the Vietnam War that was going on, that there were some Buddhists who set themselves on fire.
Yeah, I remember this.
In protest.
Yes.
So I thought
in front of everybody.
Yeah. So I thought that's what's going to happen right in front of me. But they were singing this song that intrigued me. To this day, I cannot say why I was attracted to the Mahamantra. I never knew at that time. I didn't know what it meant. And
But something very attractive, magic or something hypnotic, something which everybody wants to hear. What's
something.
Going on?
I couldn't explain. I did see a woman with a stroller and a child in the stroller join the party. And that impressed me. Like, whoa, women can do this? But I didn't talk to them. I don't remember anybody approaching us with literature. I probably was at the very back of the crowd.
All right.
Okay, but after that, I ended up seeing devotees in various places. From California, I went to Hawaii, and I could just tell you the times I definitely remember seeing devotees. So there in Hawaii, I lived on the island of Maui.
Maui, beautiful place.
Yeah. And there was a group of hippies led by a man whose name was Sai. And he apparently was reading Prabhupada's books and had his followers. He was kind of a yoga society, I guess. And he had his followers offering prasadam, offering their food as prasadam, and chanting Hare Krishna. So I first encountered them.
They were normally dressed. They were not wearing robes and anything.
No robes. Okay. No, they were dressed just like all the other hippies. Men had long hair. They, T-shirts and whatever. Just
normal dress.
Yeah. But they had a car. First I heard that they had a car that had the Mahamantra written on the outside. Wow. And I was told they'll always stop for you. So I was kind of scared of them. I did not want to get in that car. I avoided getting a ride.
You were afraid they kidnap you or something.
I didn't know. It just, maybe.
Different.
I was afraid of it. I was just afraid. No real reason. But they were at this concert. Okay, so I went to a concert, famous group at the time, Big Brothers and the holding company, had paid for a ticket to go in, but the devotees are outside chanting. And that time I remember chanting with them, but not letting them know
that you were joining them.
Right. I was definitely in the back of the crowd and I really loved it. But at some point I thought, this is crazy. I have my ticket and the concerts. Yeah. So I went inside and immediately was like, nope, this is more fun outside. So I went back out. So that was, one of the first times. And then another time there was a concert with Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
This was just a couple of months before he died. It was for a movie he was supposed to be making called Rainbow Bridge. So like Hawaii, the islands are volcanoes. Yes. And so there's this empty crater, which is like a natural amphitheater. And so he was playing in there and it was free to everybody. So to get there, you have to walk up the outside of the crater and then down in. So my perception of that event was that everybody walking to this concert was chanting Hare Krishna. Everybody. Yeah, everybody's amazing. Walking up the hill, coming from all directions, and up the hill, and then inside were Sai's people, and they were distributing cookies. So I think that's my first taste of prasadam.
Nice.
Maybe.
I know where you were already chanting.
I was chanting.
Unknowingly, just you were attracted to this chanting.
Oh yeah, I loved it. And after that, I didn't talk to Sai's people. I don't know if they offered it to Prabhupada. I know at some point he admitted to them, hey, look, this information is not coming from me. It's coming from Prabhupada. And he ended up surrendering with 50 of his followers just about a month before my joining the movement.
And he became who?
He became Siddha Sarup.
Siddha Sarup.
And then then Prabhupada gave him sannyas and he was Siddha Sarup Ananda Maharaj.
Yes.
And there's quite a few of those 50 devotees who are still
there. Yes.
Initiated by Prabhupada and strong devotees, So
he was very honest. He didn't say, "Oh, this is me, the aliens or something."
He did after he did leave the movement, and then did put himself in the center again, and did become the guru. And they call themselves the Haribols, right? That's in the Philippines and Australia,
many places.
Yes, and other places. Yeah. Anyway, they're not in America, so I never hear about them. But any case, so.
But then, how did you meet Who
Yeah.
first give you a book or you preach? You took prasadam at this point. You chanted
Okay,
the
well,
name. You took prasadam, right?
I assume that was prasadam. Hopefully, that was offered to
Most probably. Most
Prabhupada.
probably.
Whether or not it was offered to Prabhupada, it was offered.
Yeah, I think so.
I have the most strange story. I mean, really, the quick answer to like how did I actually become a devotee was that a friend of mine took me to the temple in Boston and left me there.
Wow.
I never had a book. I never had more prasadam except for that cookie. But okay, well, let me explain what happened.
Yeah.
I try to make it brief. So from Hawaii, I first of all, I'd gone to Hawaii without my husband, but we decided to get back together. And so he came to Hawaii, and then together we went back to Boston. Well, to Cape Cod. His parents lived on Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, well, we weren't there very long. So at some point we decided we just need to go back to California because the reason why we left in the first place was that it's so conservative in Massachusetts, and it's way more liberal in California. We belong there.
Yeah, of course.
We really did belong there. So we got a ride on an old school bus where somebody had taken out all the seats, which was a big empty school bus. And about 9 people had paid for rides in this bus to California. We got as far as Ohio. The bus broke down. The guy who owned the bus didn't have the money to get it fixed. We were parked behind a bar and right next to a car repair place, but he had to get the money to pay for it. So while he was gone, and it was winter, it was December of 1970 by this time. It was cold in Ohio. And one by one, all the people who paid for rides in the bus, they left and went hitchhiking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was the only, I was the only one left. Even Stan took off. So, I was alone there for a few weeks. Then the owner of the bus came back and said, we have to go back to, someone borrowed a car. And he said, we have to go back to Boston so I can get the money to pay for this. So we drove back to Boston, and he arranged for me to stay with in a boys' dorm at Northeastern University. And I did not like his friends. They were, in my opinion, animals. Everything that means.
Yeah.
So I must have left some information about where I was going, but I headed out to a suburb of Boston where Stan's best buddy, since they were little kids, his buddy lived. He was a straight guy, was married, had a couple of kids, and somehow or other, I walked through Boston wearing a blanket with a slit in it as a coat and moccasins, not even boots, and a cotton skirt, long skirt. I was, because I was hippie. But anyway, I got to their house somehow or other. And I know more details because I've been in touch with them kind of recently. But what happened is his wife was like, as soon as her husband came home from work, she said to him, get this girl out of here. She can't stay here. I mean, we knew each other really well, but she didn't know me as a hippie.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, she just knew me as, Stan's wife, and we always worked, we were responsible. But she didn't know us once we became hippies. So her husband, Bob, had read in an article in a magazine I've never seen. It was called Boston After Dark. It wasn't a well-known magazine.
No.
But it had an article about the Hare Krishna temple and how they got people off drugs.
Okay.
They were like a drug rehab place.
Nice.
So he had read that. Bob had read that. So we called him up and said, I read this article. It says you're a drug rehab place. And I got this girl here, and she's chanting Hare Krishna. She's one of yours. Will you take her? And they said, no, we're not a drug rehab. What? Are you kidding? We're a temple. We're not going to take her. No. Hangs up. He goes back to his wife. They won't take her. She was like, they have to take her. She can't stay here. No way. I had done some weird things with her kids, apparently. She said I lit some matches and watched them burn. I don't remember this at all. She said that I wanted to help with her kids, and so I drew them a bath and the water was too hot. I don't remember any of this. But like say, recent years, she told me some of the details, like why she didn't want me around, you know? So anyway, Bob calls back and kind of insists, and they said, okay, bring her in. So this was a Sunday night, and by the time, first of all, I didn't want to go.
Of course.
I didn't want to go. To me, the Hare Krishnas were way too happy. I didn't want to be
happy.
Too happy. I was miserable, and I didn't want to be around happy people. You know, like say, misery likes company.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just way too happy, and I didn't know why. I figured that it was from drugs and other forbidden things because that's
otherwise how you can be so happy.
Exactly. That's all I knew. That brings happiness. So I thought, okay. So they tricked me. He tricked me. Bob had a neighbor, and he said, we're going to a party. So I thought I was like on a date with this neighbor, and Bob was just driving us. So the temple was in Alston, which is like a suburb of Boston, but not really outside this. I mean, it was part of the city.
Yeah.
And it was a big house. We go in the door, and I go into the prasadam room, which is just a big, empty, bare room. And Bob and his neighbor left.
They left you there?
They left me there. Jesus. They literally left me there. That was the plan all along, just to get me there and turn me over to the devotee. So a devotee named Kula Shekhar from England, he preached to me that first night. Now, this was a cold, bare room. We're just sitting on this cold floor. I mean, he was sitting on a folded shutter. I don't know if I even had anything to sit on. And I think he offered me charanamrita to drink. It was late. It was after the Sunday. It was a Sunday after the Sunday feast. The men were up just cleaning up the temple. The women had already gone to bed. So he couldn't send me up to upstairs to the women's ashram.
Right.
I said I had this blanket, which was my coat. So I just slept in the prasadam room in my blanket. Now, 5 o'clock the next morning, Mangalarti was 4:30. At 5 o'clock, all the women go down to the prasadam. The temple room was upstairs. Okay. So they would come downstairs.
They find you.
And they found me in the prasadam room. Yeah, woke me up. They would come down there and make the flower garlands for the day. The process was Srimad Bhagavatam class. One of the men would be deputed to read the Srimad Bhagavatam while the ladies made the garlands. And the men upstairs would read also. We didn't have like the class the way we have now. This was just reading. And it was Prabhupada's original volumes. It was kind of hard to read.
Right.
With all the, Indian English and different spelling and everything. So, yeah, that's what I remember of those first few days was that they put me in a sari that somebody had donated so that I looked different because everybody else was wearing either saffron or yellow because they would just buy these big bolts of cloth and cut them up, and the men and the women would just, wear either saffron or yellow for the grihastas, right?
Yeah.
So I was wearing a real sari. So I stood out like I'm not really part of them, but we would go on Harinam. That was what we did. We went on Harinam either to Harvard Square or to Boston Commons. We'd all just jump in a van and go there. And we had back to Godheads. We were selling for a quarter each. And we'd chat. When we went to Harvard Square, now that was something for me because I had worked for Harvard University Press. I knew that I could bump into somebody I might know. Now, all this time I'd been chanting and hiding it from the devotees. But here I finally am like, I admit it. I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I like doing it. I don't care what you think. I'm doing it.
You accepted it.
Yeah.
And you were feeling great.
Yeah. I loved it. And it was Jadharani who mostly preached to me because she was married to the temple president, who was Satsvarup Das Adhikari at the time. And also Ananga Manjari, who is now married to Bhadra Das. She was 17 at the time, Ananga, and she was like so exuberant. Her feet hardly even touched the ground. She was always up in the air, jumping up and down, dancing. Oh my God.
She was bubbling.
Totally bubbly. And she was kind of, you could say, my bhakti leader, kind of. Okay, now it's time to go to the temple room. Now it's this, yeah.
But you like it and you enjoy it.
Once I got there, I was relieved. It was like I had been so taken advantage of by the material energy and just
material energy sucks you inside.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point you get released.
Yeah, it was. I still didn't know anything. Nothing. In fact, that first night when Kulashekar was preaching to me, he's talking about Krishna. Of course, I thought I was Krishna. It took a little while to get, understanding something. And I also was really not connecting with all the Sanskrit names.
Of course.
Very confused by all the Sanskrit.
All the names, all the nuances.
Yeah, and just who's who. And I remember one day I was walking down the stairs because it was a house, but it was tall, 5 floors or something. I finally saw a poster of Prabhupada when he had visited in 1969, visited Boston Temple, and it had his name in print and his picture. And I finally put it together that he was the guru. Because otherwise I really didn't know. In fact, I thought it was Jadharani because she was always preaching to me. I just didn't know. I really didn't know. It just took me a while. Now, okay, that was my perception of the beginning, first few days. According to Ananga Manjari, she said I slept for a week and that every time I woke up, she'd stuff Burfi in my mouth. I go back to sleep.
I mean, you were kind of, digesting this whole different situation, and coming to understand more. Somehow you were tired, material energy, whatever.
I guess there's some truth to what she said because she was sober where I was not quite.
It takes some time to go off all the stuff.
Yeah.
The medicine, this, that, whatever it is.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I had given some contact information to the guy who owned the car. So at some point he got in touch with me. And
there was no mobile phone. There was no telephone. There was nothing at the time.
Well, there was telephones.
Telephone, yes, but they were in the house or in the room.
In the house, yeah. So I think I must have left the name of Bob, his number. And he said, oh, she's at the Hare Krishna temple. So they got in touch with me there. And he said, okay, well, I'm going back to Ohio to get on the bus and, ready to go. And I actually said no. I said no. Now, the person who preached to me about that was Hridayananda Das Brahmachari. He was a temple commander, and he just happened to see me walking on the steps and just said, how are you doing? And just, checking in with me.
Yeah, no problem.
And I told him that I was going to go to California and that I would probably go to the temple there. I wasn't like committed at all. And he said to me, look, just stay here and get fixed up. That was the term.
Yeah, fixed up. Yeah,
in Krishna consciousness. And he goes, and then once you're fixed up, you can take your Krishna consciousness everywhere you go. And you can go all over the world. But you'll be Krishna conscious. So
that's nice.
I thought that sounds like a good idea. Because I knew I wasn't really committed. I didn't know what was going to happen if I went back to California. So he helped me make up my mind that I would stay. Now, Bob was not sure that I wanted to be at the Hare Krishna temple. So he would regularly, probably like weekly, come by and see me.
Check
me out. And the devotees knew exactly his mood, which was if I wasn't happy, And if
take
I
you
didn't
out.
want to be there, yeah, he was ready to take me out.
Of course.
And they sensed that. Therefore, they never let me be alone with him, in case that would happen. So, but honestly, like I hear other people talk about their struggle in understanding, accepting the philosophy and stuff. But for me, I was more like an empty sieve not a sieve, but an empty bucket or something. And just let it all pour in. I just would listen and, slowly shifted like, I'm not God. Okay, Krishna's God. Okay, the point of life is to become pure. And this chanting is the process. And
Makes sense.
It all made sense.
And you were feeling happy by chanting. It's not illusion. Like people say so many things. Okay, let me try. If I do it and I feel happy, it means it works.
Right.
It's like when you eat and you feel your stomach, you feel satisfied.
Nobody can tell you different because you're satisfied.
Because you can feel it.
And they were saying, if you chant, you'll be happy. And okay, I'll test it out. Okay, yeah, it worked.
It worked, yeah.
Let's try another week, another experiment. And also the records were just starting to come out. Well, they had the Happening album, but the Govinda album, it was a 45 record Govinda on one side. I can't remember what was on the other.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some devotees who just play it over and over and over again. It wasn't like we were using it for greeting the deities. We didn't even greet the deities.
No, we didn't.
I don't know what we did in Boston. But
maybe chanted.
Well, something happened. I think you know what we did? We chanted Guru Vastika. No, not Guru Vastika. Yeah, Guru Vastika. Would they chant at Mangalarti?
Yes, same song.
We would chant that for greeting the deities. And for Mangalarti, we played a tape of Prabhupada chanting. And when it would end, then we would chant. But it was most of the tape of Prabhupada.
It's understandable because it was the beginning. Nobody knew exactly what type of system we should have.
Yeah.
But then Prabhupada slowly...
Right. Also, the men and women did not separate in the temple room.
Of course not.
It was just all mixed. It was not...
Not big deal. It was not a big deal.
We didn't think it was a problem.
No.
The first fire sacrifice I ever saw was Satsvarup Das Adhikari. He was the priest, and it was the wedding of Hridayananda and Anangamachari.
Oh, nice.
And so they were associating before the wedding, and it was like this. She would say to me, so she would call me Emily, That wasn't even Bhakti. We didn't even know that word.
Yeah.
So, Emily, there's a class in the temple. Let's go, So we go there, and there's just one brahmachari, Hridayananda. And I'm like, I confused, like, okay, so we had a class, would study something. I don't know. That was them associating.
I see. At least in the Bhagavatam class.
Well, I don't know what we were studying. Maybe it wasn't Bhagavatam time. It was during maybe it's evening. I don't know what.
I don't remember.
Don't remember, but it was an arranged thing for them to associate.
Okay.
But she presented to me like it's a class, so I'd go with her.
That's okay. But tell us the first time you saw Srila Prabhupada in your life.
Well, I first heard about this initiation thing and how you had to be a devotee for 6 months to get initiated. And that Prabhupada was in India and he was supposed to come back soon and he was going to do initiation. So my first prayers to Prabhupada was, please don't come here till I'm here 6 months so that I could get initiated, And actually that totally worked out like that. But meanwhile, I was in Boston. I was a typist, so they got me typesetting, or first typing. First I was a temple secretary, but then I was typesetting with ISKCON Press, and ISKCON Press was moving to New York, so I moved with them. This is all like in 3 months.
Yeah.
Moved to New York and was typesetting in New York, and I loved doing that. But I also was attracted to deity worship, and I got in trouble with my boss, who was Palika, because we were making new handkerchiefs every week, and it was my turn to make it, and I hadn't finished. I was sewing when I was supposed to be composing.
Yeah.
And so basically, with that one offense, quote unquote offense, she said she was trading me with another devotee. who would typeset. Now, unfortunately for them, that devotee lasted only 2 weeks as a typesetter. But meanwhile, I was sent to Philadelphia Temple to be the head pujari because I wanted to do deity worship. As soon as I got there, a letter came from Prabhupada. There was like maybe a dozen devotees in Philadelphia at the time. And almost everybody was not initiated. A letter comes from Prabhupada initiating by mail. And so then, because even though I was head pujari, I wasn't allowed to do the artis. It had to be the initiated devotees. Like I would set it up and I would clean up afterwards. It was only a picture. It was a picture. It wasn't deities. Right. A painting of Panchatattva. Anyway, I wasn't too happy with that. And there was only one other brahmachari and she was an older lady, maybe 30 or something. Didn't get along with her too well. I go to, I guess you call it a Sankirtan festival. There was a summer temple in Ocean City, Maryland, on a beach. The Ocean City is a beach community. And many devotees from the East Coast would go there for the weekend and preach on the beach. And I met a devotee from Washington, D.C., and she was the pujari there, also for a painting of Panchatattva. Somehow or other, between the two of us, we agreed to switch temples. You're supposed to get the temple president's permission for these kind of things, but again, I was kind of a rebel. So, yeah, we switched temples, and I was happier in Washington, D.C. And so I was living in Washington. Again, there was about a dozen devotees there. My temple president's name was Damodar. If you've ever seen that early movie where Prabhupada's telling a story, and then you see Radha and Krishna and the gopis, and they're walking across this beautiful bridge. You ever see that movie? There's no sound.
Maybe.
No sound. It has to be narrated.
Must be.
But it's like Prabhupada's telling the story. Anyway, he made this movie. He used to show it all the time, and he'd narrate it. He made a few other movies, very short movies. And, Damodar, I just kind of believed everything he said. And so when we heard that Prabhupada was coming to New York and he would do an initiation, so I asked him, can I get initiated? And he said, he tested me. This was the test. He said, so who is Krishna? I said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He goes, and who are you? I'm his servant. Okay, you can get initiated.
Cool, man.
That was the test.
Nowadays, you have to pass so many tests and write so many things. You have to read the Bhagavad Gita 5 times.
So there was 6 of us who were going to get initiated from Washington. Now, we didn't go to New York when Prabhupada arrived because Damodar had this philosophy. We're not meant to gawk at the spiritual master. We should just do service. When it's time to get initiated, we'll go there. Well, Damodar kind of got in trouble for not greeting Prabhupada when he arrived. I gave everybody else who went there went then.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada was holding an initiation every day. And it was like 10 first initiations. And I don't know how many second. But he would chant on your beads during the ceremony. So that's why it was limited to 10. Take an hour. And we drove to New York. On the way, we stopped in Baltimore, which is kind of on the way. And somebody had bought a big box of walnut beads. We counted at 108. A couple of the devotees who were getting initiated had carved like the head bead, the Krishna bead. They look like little Lord Jagannath's kind of. Nice. And so we had that, and we just need 108 beads. Now, I can tell you that the person who carved them, his name is Pancharatna Das.
Oh,
or Pancharatna here in Mayapur.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was actually from Buffalo, but he and a devotee who ended up being named Saptarath and his wife, the 3 of them had come from Buffalo to make a new altar in Washington, so they happened to be there. And anyway, when we got to New York, we found out that Prabhupada was doing the initiations in the morning during Bhagavatam class time.
Right.
So because he wasn't giving class in the morning, he was giving class in the afternoon, in the evening. So we sat in the prasadam room when we got there. It was during the day. It was like a 5-hour drive, I think, from Washington. So we're sitting there in the prasadam room, and we've strung up our beads. And we knew how much thread. We had some nice, thick thread. It was the measure how much thread you needed. You go 7 times around a back to Godhead, the long way around a back to Godhead.
Wow. That's
how much thread you needed. That was an interesting way of calculating. So so the first time I saw Prabhupada was that evening. And so he's going to give a Bhagavad Gita class. So I'm sitting in the temple room. Now, this is a hot July day. This was I think it was July 22nd, or maybe it was the 23rd of July in 1971. And like I said, Prabhupada had been there a couple of days already. So it was so packed that not everybody could fit in. Devotees that come from all over the East Coast and Canada, eastern part of Canada.
So a lot of devotees.
All devotees. Everybody's packed in, and still not everybody could get in. So one devotee, who ended up getting the name Kirtiraj Prabhu, he was tapping people on the shoulder and telling them to, if they would agree to leave the temple because other people had never seen Prabhupada. And I had never seen Prabhupada, so no way I was going to leave. I think he didn't notice that I had been gone for like 3 months because I had been in New York with the press, Anyway, but I just was determined to sit there. And I could just tell you that in my mind, I just kind of couldn't really believe that I was going to meet Prabhupada, that there was somebody who wrote the Bhagavad Gita. I loved the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, I read the Bhagavad Gita like 5 times before I said, okay, is there anything else to read?
Nice.
And of course it was the abridged edition. So it was quicker read.
Without Sanskrit and without the...
No, the Sanskrit...
But there was no
right.
word by word or something.
It was just
just the English.
They just cut out some purports.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, some purports. Some are slimmed down and some are eliminated completely. I was not happy with that edition. Yeah. But yeah, the purple.
So what happened when you saw Prabhupada coming in front of your eyes?
That's what I'm building up to tell you. Oh my God, we're almost done. Okay, so what I remember sitting there like to the last minute doubting that I was really going to meet Srila Prabhupada. Could that person who wrote the Bhagavad Gita really walk through that door? And I just thought that until the moment he walked through the door. And it was like an old friend who I had seen in so long. Like I just totally had forgotten, Yeah. And it was unbelievable. Like, of course, Srila Prabhupada, it was like... And then the next morning is when I got initiated. So let me share that, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're sitting around the fire in a particular order, and then they would hang our beads on the microphone stand in the order they were sitting around. I mean, they were also labeled, I guess,
of course.
And so we had to chant on our old beads, And so there was 4 devotees who I still don't know who they were, but I don't know what temple they were from or what names they got or anything. I just know the 6 of us from Washington. So, but the men were all going first. And there was 3 devotees who had the word Rath in their name. It was Saptarath, Astarath, and Dasarath.
Wow.
So in each one of them, he gave the definition of their name.
Yes.
One who drives a chariot in 8 directions. One who drives a chariot, in 7 directions. Even Dasarath, one who drives a chariot in 10 directions. That's all he said. He didn't even say, it's Ramachandra's father, nothing.
Nothing.
Just the definition, not even a whole sentence. Just that phrase, one who drives a chariot in so many directions. Then Pancharatna, now he feels a connection to the numbers part.
Yeah.
Because
Five,
the Pancha is 5. So, yeah. He got it, and I don't know what Prabhupada said. He'd have to tell you. But
then he called you.
no, I wasn't next. It was actually a little girl who was about 12.
Okay.
And she was the daughter of a devotee, a New York devotee.
Okay.
Who had just gotten initiated the day before. And her daughter, as far as I remember, had, like, I know for sure she had a round face, and blonde hair, and blue eyes, very
beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. And so Prabhupada was completely enchanted with her. And just, you chanting 16 rounds. Yes, Srila Prabhupada. And he just had this interaction with her. Yeah, that was just so sweet. And he gave her the name Shashi Mukhi, moon face. Yeah.
Beautiful name.
Yeah. Unfortunately, her mother blooped shortly thereafter, and so did she. Anyway, that was really nice exchange. And then I don't remember even if I was next. It might have been Saptarath's wife. She got the name Hemalata. Mm-hmm. But when my turn came, what I remember is the process when you go in front of Prabhupada. Now, I don't remember if we paid full dandavats. I know we were paying full dandavats back then. Yeah. We were. Yeah. But I don't remember if we did that in front of Prabhupada. But Aravinda was Prabhupada's servant, and he had a paper with all the names written on it.
Yes.
And so he would read it to Prabhupada, read the name, but it wasn't in the mic, but I was close enough to hear. So I think I was already, okay, wait a minute. I am forgetting in a very important part of the story.
Sure, tell us.
Before we left Washington,
yeah,
the temple president's wife, Damodar's wife, wasn't going with us because she had just had a baby. Right? She couldn't travel. She says to me, so you're going to get initiated? Yes, your husband is, recommending me for initiation. She goes, what do you think Prabhupada's going to name you? Okay. This was a question and I was in New York Temple.
Who will know?
But yeah, we don't. But when I was in New York Temple as a brahmacharini, for those, like maybe the months I was there, however long it was, there was like 25 brahmacharinis. They're all waiting for Prabhupada to come and get initiated. So there was a common question to ask each other. What do you think Prabhupada's going to name you? And mostly the typical answer was, Prabhupada's going to name me Maya because I'm always in Maya. Now, I never had that humble pie philosophy at all. I never thought I was in mine. So I would never say it. But when Damodar's wife asked me, I said the line. I don't know why. I said
just
that line.
Just repeat like everybody else.
Yeah, but here's a different, it was later.
Anyway.
Why I said it was just, serendipity or something. So I was definitely in shock when I heard my name, Mahamaya. But then when Prabhupada said it, he says it twice. And I remember there's a shocked silence throughout the temple. And then Prabhupada started laughing and everybody cracked up. Everybody cracked up. And then he goes, illusory energy. There are different phases of the moon. Something about it's Radharani's energy. I actually have it in my book, and these because I got a tape of someday.
Nice,
I was able to get a hold of the tape and actually listen exactly what Prabhupada said. And he said, just like there are phases of the moon, Mahamaya is a phase of Radharani. Nice. For one who does not want to serve Krishna, the illusory energy is there. And then he goes, do you know the 4 regular principles? I didn't have to repeat them. Only at the first people in the ceremony would repeat the 4 regs, and everybody else.
But you knew them.
I knew them. And not only that, when we were driving to New York, we were told we had to memorize the 10 offenses to the holy name. Oh, yeah. And that we would be tested on that. So the whole way there, we were memorizing it, thinking that's what he was going to ask us. And it was just the 4 regs, and I didn't even have to say them because so many others had already said it before me.
He gave you the beads.
The beads, yeah.
That's it.
Gave me the beads, and okay, the experience though of being there at Prabhupada's feet and him looking at me and focusing his attention on me was, I'm sure you've heard this from a number of devotees.
Yeah.
It was like Prabhupada could see the real me. Like
X-ray.
Yeah, it was like I didn't know that person. I didn't know who I was, but it was like gazillion layers of false ego and who I thought I was. And Prabhupada was talking to me. It was a phenomenal experience.
It's something you cannot forget in your life.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, people could talk for an hour just on that one glance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So.
And then your life changed. You become a wonderful devotee. You did a lot of service.
My only claim to fame is that I stayed in the movement. I didn't move, and I chanted my rounds every day. And if I ever got behind, like, a few times I've been very, very sick or gave birth to my son, get behind, I've always made it up. I can't say they're just like good rounds. Always want to improve my rounds. Oh my God. They could be so much better, but I am committed to chanting my rounds. I think that's what's kept me in the movement because, we all face so many trials and tribulations, but I can't live without chanting my rounds. I mean,
you become addicted.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like many devotees.
Yeah, I just a few times I have gotten way behind because of sickness. I'm just in anxiety until I catch up.
Yeah. Sure. It's so wonderful talking to you, Mahamaya Mataji. And please give now a message to all the people who are listening to us today in Radio Mayapur. What is your final message to them of Krishna consciousness? Something small and sweet and short.
Well, I would say something about Srila Prabhupada. That whether or not we personally met him, I mean, I feel so fortunate to have personally met Prabhupada. And then, I did spend time here in Mayapur when Prabhupada was spending a lot of time in India. So, I was able to write a whole book of my memories of Prabhupada. So as a rank and file devotee, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. And, like all those little times I saw Prabhupada in America would be like totally satisfying. But I came to India and I just remember sitting in Prabhupada's rooms in his evening darshan and thinking how
Here in Mayapur?
Here in Mayapur.
Okay, which year?
76. And feeling like I am so fortunate to be here, and every devotee all over the planet would love to be here right now. They would give their eye tooth to be here right now, and I'm here. So I really have to share that with others. And I just want to say that I have met so many devotees who have a complete connection with Prabhupada. They didn't physically meet him, but it doesn't matter. We're all his Shiksha disciples, and he always emphasized Shiksha way more important than Diksha.
Absolutely.
So I just don't want people to feel like, only the people initiated by Prabhupada got the mercy. Like, forget it. We are
if you read Prabhupada books, we are in his association.
Yeah.
Because Prabhupada say, I live in my books.
We live in my books, and he said to follow his instructions and all that. Like, Vani and Vapu, right? Yes. Vapu is very rare to get that.
Absolutely.
But Vani is available every minute of every day forever. So it's like, just know that you haven't missed out on anything. Prabhupada is available to everyone. And I mean, I'm just saying that. And I'm somebody who, like I said, a rank and file devotee who got a bit more association than most. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me tell my story.
Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shridham Mayapur Dham ki jai. Thank you so much, Mom.
You're listening to Radio Mayapur with the best devotional, meditation, kirtan music, and inspirational podcast. This is Radio Mayapur.